From reboots
to remakes,
this week we'll be discussing our top 5 of them.
This is the Film Angle. Welcome to the Film Angle, a podcast where we dive deep into the latest releases and unearth the classics to better our cinephilic curiosity. I'm Kris.
And I'm Alex.
Let's get into it.
Kris, what have you been up to?
I have been sitting here waiting to record the next episode since our last episode, obviously.
Wow, yes. The smell is protruding through the webcam.
And you know that smell well from real life. You know.
Well, I too have also only been sitting here the whole time waiting for you to press record.
Yeah, Alex, obviously there hasn't really been post-Furiosa, post-Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, really much new releases in the cinema sphere. So we're doing something we like to do occasionally on the Film Angle here today, where we like to do a top 5 list, but blind list. You and me don't know what each other are going to say today or what we're going to come up with. This is all centering around reboots and remakes because, well, it's kind of the thing at the minute.
Yes, yeah. Last week we rebooted the show, A New Lick of Paint. As the advert that's out on the socials right now says, same great podcast, all new look.
Same smell.
Same smell. But thank God you can't smell on a podcast. So yeah, no, we're going to be getting into our reboots and stuff like that. But you're right, Kris. There isn't much coming out, and unfortunately, Furiosa's also not doing the money. Maybe more people need to listen to our episode and get out there and watch the film.
It's a real shame, isn't it? It seems that people just aren't really, I don't know, aware of this film existing. It's either that or they're saying Garfield. I think Garfield's doing better than Furiosa at the minute, which is strange.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me though. Doesn't surprise me. It's
unfortunately not. No.
and to be fair, like Mad Max Furiosa is it's a bit of a. It's not an all.
It's a very specific film, taste, isn't it? Yeah.
Very very dingy, gritty. Horrible, crazy.
Yeah, very idiosyncratic. It definitely has a certain flavor that, like, the more, I don't know, warped mind is gravitated to.
Yeah. I'm hoping word of mouth kind of pulls it along, though. I remember Mad Max Fury Road didn't make loads of money. I think it only just broke even, but it was such a critical success that here we are 10 years later with a prequel/sequel kind of thing going on. So I don't know. Maybe there'll be some good from it, but yeah, it's not strong. But maybe just our habits have changed. You know,
it's certainly the film though that will have its super fans, and like even I'm sort of inclined to maybe go see it again because I think like I remember I love Fury Road. I love watching it at home, but as you alluded to last week, watching this kind of film at home will always be a secondary experience to your first experience watching it in a cinema, watching it in a theater. So I think a lot of people will go back and see this twice or 3 times, especially among its biggest fans. So perhaps maybe it'll have legs that way. I'm just hoping that way. You know, because I would love to see another one of these films. And God knows it was really expensive to make. Yeah. It's and we know it's Warner Brothers produced. They're not in the livelihood of taking big swings for nothing, you know. So yeah, it's just the way of the world at the minute. To be honest, we could go into all the background of streaming and how everything is sort of affecting the industry at the moment, but it really is just a case of there's 1 or 2 movies a year where everybody's going to flock to, but anything outside of those 2 films, you know, is going to struggle. Even Disney can't keep up with it.
True. It's true. I think we had a pretty good start to the year with the mid-budgets, right? They all made relatively good money, but nothing that was going to set the world on fire.
Sure.
But when it comes to summer blockbusters, there's a different kind of level there that people kind of criticize them and review them for, and because there's so much money being pumped into them. But yeah, it'd be nice to see another Mad Max film at some point.
Absolutely.
We'll see, eh? I'm glad we got this one.
Alex, reboots, remakes. What's your kind of general opinion on them in general? You know, are you a fan of them? Do you look forward to whenever like we're going to do another Star Wars, we're going to do Indiana Jones again? Are you generally excited for when that announcement is made, or do you kind of meet it with skepticism?
It depends, really. It depends. I guess, the term reboot means usually that they're not full blown remaking a franchise, but instead kind of lighting a spark underneath a, somewhat dormant IP, usually, which still has a fan base. So, like when the new Star Wars came out, we might get into it later. I was very excited.
Oh, okay.
And with Indiana Jones, I was cautiously optimistic for the new film that came out last year. Remakes, honestly, it all depends. It all depends on what's being remade.
Who's remaking it?
Yeah, who's remaking it? There are just some films that don't need it. There are some really older films. I find this a lot when going back through some of the, they're almost classics. They're not Sunset Boulevard or Casablanca. They're not a household name in the classics world, but they're good enough, or they're almost there. But not a lot of people have seen them. I'm surprised Hollywood doesn't try to kind of remake some of those. Sometimes I'd like to see some of those have a modern twist on them. And for me, remake it, do what you need to do, but like at least we'll always have the original, right?
That's true. Nothing can take that away from you. I think it's important not to get too passionate about, are they going to butcher my baby here? At the end of the day, that still belongs to you. And it's kind of interesting to see somebody take an original concept and completely flip it on its head. So we'll be sort of discussing that here. I've got a few on my list today, my top 5 reboots and remakes that definitely, replicate the sort of what I enjoy from a remake or a reboot. I'm sure your list will be similar. I don't think our list will be reflected in each other's at all this week. I have a feeling this is going to be a first where we'll both have completely different options, which is interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting because we've not discussed it at all, and sometimes we kind of lightly discuss it, and sometimes we go in knowing each other's list.
Yeah.
So we have some kind of thoughts ready to go and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, we have gone completely blind this time, and also very loose with the rules.
You could get really bogged down on the rules here, make parameters for everything, but which we were doing actually in pre-production for this episode. We were sort of discussing what is a reboot, what is a remake. It's subjective. I think it's such a loose term, both of these words, that I've got justifications for them anyway. I don't think anyone's going to argue with my reasoning behind why I've chosen these films. Hopefully, anyway. I think that they've been pretty reasonable. But yeah, we've been pretty loose with this. Hopefully it won't disturb anybody that way.
Yeah, it's reboots and remakes. We're lumping them in together. The world's open. So it's wide as anything. And we've picked 5 that, we think are pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's difficult to say top, isn't it? Like I was looking through so many, and we also said no Mad Max and no Planet of the Apes because we obviously spoke about both of those franchises at length last week.
Sure,
so no point kind of rehashing that. But I imagine they probably would have come up, right?
Yeah, because I would have probably just said Planet of the Apes and then just done the review from last week, which is not interesting. Easier for me to do, obviously, but not interesting for audiences who listened to last week's episode. So yeah, try to think outside of the box a little bit here. And I originally thought it was going to be a really hard task, but it opened up very quickly for me. And I saw some were like, oh yeah, there's some obvious winners here. So no doubt there'll be other ones I really love that I've missed too. But these are the ones that kind of came to my mind first. Not necessarily a ranked top 5, just 5 that I really, really appreciate.
Cool. Nice one. Well, shall we get into it then? Should we do our number 5s?
Number 5, Alex. Should you go first or should I go first?
You go first, Chris. Go on. You do the honors.
Okay, I'm not sure if you've seen this film, Alex, either of its iterations. The original came out in 1957 and the sequel, well, not the sequel, the remake, came out in 2007, directed by James Mangold, and that is 3:10 to Yuma. It's a Western that was, it's pretty stylish, pretty formative in my teenage years, and kind of opened up the doors for me to kind of go back and revisit its earlier predecessor. Have you seen this film before?
No, I haven't actually. It's been one of those films that's always, back of my DVD shelf. There was a copy of it, and I never got around to watching it.
It's a classic, very storybook Western tale of good and evil meeting together and sort of bonding in the middle. So the original film is starred Glenn Ford, and this is not really a remake, an original comparison where I'm like saying the remake is better. I think they're both really successful films of what they're trying to do. They're just completely different, is what makes it quite interesting. The original is a lot more of a simplistic, lean 90-minute, gorgeous, almost, it's not a John Ford Western, but it's very reminiscent of those John Ford Western films, where it is good overcoming evil. I love those simple stories. What 3:10 to Yuma 2007 does with James Mangold is bring a little bit more flavor to those characters, fleshes them out a little bit. We've got the star power of Christian Bale and Russell Crowe. We've got early Ben Foster as one of the bad guys in here, absolutely, becoming a presence on screen. You're like, who is that guy? And then obviously years later, we kind of realize he's such a great character actor. It's a really good film, Alex. I would really recommend it. It made James Mangold earlier in his career, 2 years after Walk the Line, made him a filmmaker for me to be really interested in. I'm not sure I really feel as similar now in 2024 by James Mangold. I do think he's a very competent, very good working filmmaker, but certainly earlier part of his career, he was very keen to show his stylistic old Hollywood flair, and this movie is really fun to watch, and actually surprisingly emotional. Probably one of the most committed Russell Crowe performances too. I really urge you to watch, Alex. It's pretty good fun.
Yeah, you are convincing me, especially after having it, so close to me all that time. But you know me, I for some reason never really grew up watching a lot of Westerns. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they didn't always appeal to me. That is changing, especially spending a lot more time with you, Kris. I find myself kind of warming towards Westerns, and have enjoyed some on the BFI list as well, and I'm looking forward to watching even more. I think there's a couple more coming up. I 3:10 to Yuma's on the list. I'm going to get it there.
I think the Western in general, certainly for young people to kind of get into them or not, is very dependent on who their parents were. I had a typical dad who loved watching Western films, but he didn't turn me off them. I talked to a lot of people who were like, oh, my dad used to have Westerns on TV and I used to be really bored. Well, my dad used to be very good at finding something in there for me to latch on to. I remember him showing me Once Upon a Time in the West for the first time and saying, Kris, sit down and watch this. This is the coolest thing you're ever going to see. He gave me the whole spiel, and everything my dad said was gospel. So I believed him. And I think from then on, I was absolutely in love. You coincidentally watched that film earlier this year. It's a film, 3:10 to Yuma, that is quite close to my heart because I watched it a lot with my dad. I actually think it's one of the rare Westerns that kind of has, modern Westerns, that has a little bit of an emotional punch, a little bit of sprinkle of Hollywood big budget flair, but at its core is really cool, fun remake that actually does an interesting job at rebooting some old, very well revered material.
Yeah. And James Mangold has turned into, the dad's dad of directors.
He's kind of like the dad. Yeah, he's kind of like the dad version of J.J. Abrams now, isn't he?
Yeah, he takes very dad themed films. Ford v Ferrari, Indiana Jones.
The ultimate dad film, Ford v Ferrari.
I guess you could almost say that Old Man Logan was almost like dadifying Wolverine, maybe.
Oh yeah, and that's a Western too, to some degree. Yeah. Do another Western, James Mangold. You're good at that.
Yeah, he is good.
Alex, what's your number 5?
My number 5 is a Steven Spielberg film.
Oh,
It
had to
is
be.
War of the Worlds.
Oh, interesting. Not
Yeah.
everyone would agree with you, but I'm interested to hear.
Well, this is why I wanted to put it on the list, because I do think that this film doesn't get enough love. It is Spielberg going all out with a full-blown alien invasion film, famously a book and a radio play, right? Has
Yeah.
had many an adaptation. So in a way, it's not a remake or a reboot in a way. Maybe I guess it is kind of. It's almost like a readaptation, I guess, of something famous. But takes the old kind of alien invasion book that was originally set in London and brings it to I can't remember where it is. I think it's like Massachusetts or something, isn't it? Somewhat weird.
Yeah, it's set in. I remember the opening of the film is set in Boston.
Oh
So
yeah,
yeah, Boston,
not
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. Yeah. Sorry, no, it's actually Brooklyn. I just oh no. Oh, okay.
The
This is where I'm
Tom
getting
Cruise.
it wrong. This all right. So this shows the age. I haven't seen it in a little while. Okay. So Tom Cruise is a dock worker, and he's in Brooklyn, New York. He's got to
Right.
get his kids back reunited with their mum in Boston, Massachusetts.
Yes, I'm pretty sure like the first minute of the film, he's like working wherever he's working, and then the rest of it, the intro of the film is Boston. I watched it recently at Christmas, funny enough, actually. So yeah, I think most of it's set in Boston at the beginning. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a yeah. I think it's both. I think it's both.
Yeah, it's America. Either way, we're the United States of America this time. When everything hits, and it's also him working with Josh Friedman, who's worked on the Avatar movies. David Koepp, who's done loads. He's a very prolific writer. Mission Impossible films, Indiana Jones, Jack Ryan. He's written a lot of it,
Sure.
and worked with Spielberg a few times as well. But yeah, it's him doing aliens on a very grand scale, not something as quiet as he has done in previous films. And it's also him working with Tom Cruise. And not only is it like this brilliant alien sci-fi film, it's also kind of scary. And it's also kind of heartwarming in a way. Or heartwarming, but like somewhat sad as this broken family, are forced to kind of reignite their love for each other in the face of kind of horrific desperation. And some of the special effects in it are absolutely incredible. I particularly remember one of the bridges that gets kind of destroyed early on in the movie as the alien pods start flying down. And I'm pretty sure they used a lot of like miniature work and everything on it. It was in 2005, so I guess we were very much in the days of starting to get full CGI everything, but it wasn't just believable enough yet. And obviously, with Spielberg being a master director, now I'm not trying to say this is one of his best works, but I don't think it's anywhere near his worst. I think he did a really good job here of creating a spectacle film with all the kind of little flourishes that Spielberg's good at. And it's a small twist on the War of the Worlds, modernizing it and also setting it in the States, but it works. And I like Tom Cruise when he was just kind of like, we're saying it a lot in this episode, but Daddy Tom Cruise,
Yeah, he's I do like him in this mood. In this film, 2005, man, I saw this film in 2005 in the cinema. I was 9 years old. This is a 12A, but like you alluded to, it's a scary movie. Like it's a hard 12A. And,
I'm pretty sure I didn't watch it in 2005. I'm pretty sure I watched it later on. So I think I'm a few years older than you, but even then, I remember it was on the TV, and my parents were like,
it was on a lot. Yeah,
this is supposed to be quite scary. I was like, I'll be all right. Shitting it with those bloody alien tentacles coming down.
Yeah, and it's got he's working with longtime collaborators. Like he's got Kaminsky as his DP. He's got John Williams on the score. You're right. The film is very CG heavy, but it has this I remember it always having this really intense film grain to the film. It has this really sort of almost at times on the ground level documentary style, but the thing that Spielberg has always been amazing at. I mean, he's amazing at so many things. Obviously, it's Spielberg, but I've always been really struck by his crowd control in the film. How he can manage to sort of conjure up an image of what frenzy looks like in the moment. There are some real moments of like, outside of our character's POV, there are just other peripheral characters in the story who are desperate, trying to survive. There's that scene where they're in the SUV and it's the only car running in the world at the minute. It's very convoluted, but it's something to do with like an old backed up battery so that only their car can move. And they go towards a ferry that's going to take them to another island away from the tripods and aliens. And everybody's lost their humanity and just tries to swamp the car and smash the windows, and somebody gets a gun out at one point and threatens to shoot, kill the little girl. It's a really grim look at human desperation, how we deal with our humanity in those moments and how we lose that humanity too. And some of those scenes of seeing the people being vaporized and their clothes just flying into the air, just dust. It's really disturbing, and the sound effects of those tripods that they made, that deep drone whenever they come out of the ground. Yeah, I think this film isn't really strong screenplay wise. I think some of the script is a little bit got that Marvel flair to it, but visually and for mood setting, when you're a 9-year-old boy in the cinema, I was shitting my pants. And I still feel that feeling of dread watching it today. And I think it's a really underrated Spielberg film, like you said.
Definitely. I haven't seen it in quite a long time, hence why my kind of story details aren't a bit blurry, but clearly it's left an effect for me to want to put it on the list. But I do remember seeing a good portion of it on TV, maybe like a year or two ago, back at my parents' house. And I was just like, this is good. Yeah, this is good.
Yeah, good pick, Alex. And Tim Robbins is in this film too, isn't he?
Tim Robbins is in it. A young scene. Young Dakota Fanning's in it.
Yes, I remember not being a fan of Dakota Fanning, not her performance, just the character.
Really?
I remember a lot of crying, a lot of screaming.
Well, come on! She's like 5 in the film.
Well, she's like 12, but I know. I've got no excuse, but I remember finding that character a little bit grating.
Fair enough. And then we had Morgan Freeman doing the narration.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the end, they didn't know how to kind of wrap up the film at the end. I always remember, is that kind of
just kind of finishes on like
they died because bacteria.
Yeah. But that also left quite an impression on me.
It is, because it takes you back. I remember when I was a kid thinking, the aliens are going to come out the pods now. And like, what's going to happen? And they just die. And I was like so deflated as a 9-year-old. Obviously, being 27 now, I've got a little bit of a different spin on that. But, certainly as a 9-year-old, I was like, that's disappointing.
Well, there was a part of me that needed that, because I was like, if there is an alien invasion, we might be okay. Like the Earth has defended itself. Yeah. Anyway, number 4.
Number 4. I'm not going to spend as much time on this one, Alex, because we have talked about this film in recent months, especially at Oscar period. It is Godzilla -1.
I did consider this film, actually. I did consider it.
I do consider this a remake of the original Godzilla film. We watched that in preparation for Godzilla -1, and it is in every way. I'm not one to sit here and say that it's better or worse. I think similar to my discussion on 3:10 to Yuma, they are counterparts in terms of tone and the time period that they were made in. I don't think the quality is worth splitting hairs over. Both fantastic films at what they're trying to do, but Godzilla -1, I think you'll agree, and anybody listening who's watched it, is such a breath of fresh air to the monster kaiju genre, bringing a little bit of pathos and a little bit of more, a bit more of a grittiness back to the old monster movie, making it a human story with monsters in it. And we've seen the American versions try to be both and kind of feel at it. I do have a little bit of love for the recent Godzilla Con movie for its stupidity, but it's not on the level of Godzilla -1, where I was kind of like on the edge of my seat, wanting the best for all these characters involved, being scared out of my pants when Godzilla does show up, and just being enamored by his scale and the unpredictability of this magnificent beast. And yeah, it just really left an impression on me. And everything's firing all cylinders. The score, the themes are probably just feel even more punchy than even watching the original 50s version. And it really just made me think, oh my goodness, you can really, if you put effort in these things, you don't need a lot of money. You can make anything cathartic and emotional, and just give it this pathos if you've got the right team behind it that actually care about what they're doing.
That's very true. That's very true. And I think you're right. It's kind of a remake, kind of not. That they are set in slightly different time periods, but it is showing off like this. It's almost saying like the story of Godzilla is still so relevant today.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're moving it forward just post World War II.
Sure,
and
it's like a spiritual remake in a way.
But the way it's looking at, like, the rebellious side of the country in the aftermath of that war, is almost kind of turning a mirror on our own society now, and kind of how things are.
Mm-hmm.
And I very much enjoyed Godzilla -1. Reuses musical motifs from the original, all kinds of stuff.
Really good.
And it's just it's fantastic. It still hasn't got any kind of physical or streaming release yet. I think we have to wait a little while for it, which feels like the old days, right? You weren't given the film a month after release. But I really want to get my hands on the Blu-ray of that one, because I really want to revisit it. I can't wait to revisit it again.
And speaking of comparing it to its original 50s film, I think this would even look great in black and white. Even if you saw this new film, it really does. It really is a perfect balance of nodding to its founder, its original counterpart, and just really going like, right, okay, I really respect the old film. Let's take it further for the modern audience.
Yeah,
and
it doesn't. It feels like it has something to say. It doesn't feel like it's being remade for the sake of it. It feels like it still has something to say in this day and age.
Absolutely, and just fleshing out that world even more, and bringing it back to that 1950s post-war setting. Just kind of grinds it back in reality a little bit more. We're away from our modern tech and everything, and we're just dealing with humans on the ground level facing this mammoth task, and also presenting Godzilla as an interesting sort of representation of environmentalism and just a gray area of a monster villain. He's not a villain. He's not a hero. It's a thing that we are responsible for. So yeah. Really, really cool movie.
Yeah, it's nice to know that there's room in the cinematic landscape for both Godzilla -1 and Godzilla X Kong.
I think there should be. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, I'm happy. Obviously, I think one is supremely better than the other, but I still have fun watching monkeys and lizards punch each other.
Anybody new to the episode will not know that Alex went with me to see that film in 4DX, and Alex had the worst time of his life. He had the shit beat out of him, being thrown around.
Yeah, I am. I might have to revisit Godzilla Con, because the 4DX experience was not the greatest. But I don't think that detracts from the film. Like, from what I saw of the film, very stupid but very fun. I just didn't see a lot of the fight scenes because I was fighting for my bloody life.
Turned into an old man already, Alex.
Yeah, well, I don't know how you were able to focus, man.
I was on the other side of the seat. And I had so much fun. We had opposite experiences. Alex, what is your number 4 film?
What is my number 4 film? This is a franchise that has been rebooted many a time, but I think this was the most poignant time, maybe that's the wrong word. Powerful time. It is Casino Royale, which was the introduction of Daniel Craig.
It was indeed. As Bond, anyway.
As Bond. Well, to be fair, for a lot of us, it was probably the introduction to him as well.
I guess Road to Perdition was the first thing I saw him in, but yeah, I think this was his Layer Cake was 2004 or something like that. Yeah.
But we'd had this was like 21 on the list of James Bond films. We'd had a lot of James Bond films up until this time. Pierce Brosnan had taken it down a slightly more cheesy, what you'd expect from the early 2000s kind of look at James Bond. And, this is 2006 where, Batman Begins has come out. Previously, action films are starting to go a little darker, a little grittier. And, they rebooted Bond in a similar fashion, in the way of saying we're going back to a very kind of classic style of spy film. He's not going to have crazy gadgets. He's going to be a man traumatized by his kind of past, by the things he's doing. And he's going to sit in this gray area of not like a perfect good guy, but definitely not a bad guy either. And we're going to make it look great and gritty and lovely. And that was what Casino Royale was. It was, not your daddy's James Bond film. This is the daddy episode. I'm so sorry.
We are now someone's daddy.
Take a shot every time we say daddy.
Say daddy. Okay, Alex, this is very interesting. Casino Royale is my number 3.
Oh, God damn it, Chris. So make it your number. Oh, yeah, no. That would be your next one. So we might as well just talk about it. We'll just talk about it.
We'll just talk about it. But that takes away from what I said at the beginning of the episode of us not crossing over. I completely.
You had no idea.
No, I had no idea. Yeah, I love this movie. I watch this like once a year. Sometimes, some years, sometimes twice to make up for the year I didn't watch it. I really love this film. I think you're right. Completely. I wasn't really a Bond fan before. I dipped in. I've seen a couple of Roger Moore films. I've seen the odd Pierce Brosnan. I've played the video games when I was a kid quite a lot. I enjoyed those more than the actual old films. But who knows? I might need to revisit it now. But Casino Royale was like, oh my God, this is so cool. I had never seen it done this way before. And Daniel Craig, it does a really good job at showing how Bond came to be cold and got to that point. I think it has a really awesome. It's such a really good ensemble cast. I think this whole cast was really snubbed come award season for this film. I mean, like Eva Green probably still her best performance earlier in her career. Judi Dench, obviously, Jeffrey Wright, Mads Mikkelsen as Le Chiffre, like the great villain in this. It's just such a really good way to reignite that sort of spark and kind of, why do we like this character? Why do we keep coming back to it? And not making about the gadgets where it became so convoluted about, we got Pierce Brosnan, going down, surfing on a kite, it's all this sort of terrible CGI.
Chucking out one-liners and, I have a love for those films. I still have a love
they have a place,
for those films. But this was very much like, we're not doing it like that anymore. This was a full-blown reboot, That's what we're talking about.
And that opening scene, I always remember
in black and white.
Scene.
Yeah, completely. Yeah. It was that was very much like, we're doing something different here.
And probably still, maybe unpopular opinion, but I think it's the best Bond song.
Yes. I did really like Skyfall.
Skyfall's cool because it's a good nod. It's a good theatrical nod.
Yeah, I still love Goldfinger.
Yeah, but the way they utilize the theme tune within the film of Casino Royale during the action scenes is really badass. I do love it. And it's just like, it's full of wonderful set pieces. When you revisit this film, you're like, I am looking forward. Oh, I can't wait to get to the casino scene. I can't wait to get to, the bit in Venice. I can't wait to, go to the airport with this big chase. There's so many epic bits and so many different flavors going through this film. It's a real treat. You can get into like the probability of like 6 or 7 flushes coming out on a poker table at the end of the match. I remember that used to really irritate my dad a lot.
Yeah,
I'm not as much.
I'm not a poker person, so like whenever there's poker in a film, I'm just like, Okay, sure. I think that's a good thing.
So at the end, isn't it at the end of that poker scene? It's like, I've got a flush. I've got a better flush. I got the best flush. And I think that's like a 1 in 1 million thing. Like, I think it really is.
I have no idea.
But it works in the film. It works in the film really well.
Yeah.
And it's a grittier, and I don't think even the Daniel Craig ones, although I think has tried to, we all know it's a roller coaster of a franchise for him. It didn't reach the height ever of the first outing of Bond as him in Casino Royale. I still think it's the pinnacle.
Part of me wants to say Skyfall, but Skyfall was also such a nostalgia trip as well at the same time. So it wasn't. It was a different kind of Bond film, despite being third in this rebooted franchise.
Skyfall's sort of film, when it came out, everybody was hysteric over, and everybody was really loving the song, loving just the callback to the originals. And it's great. I remember watching the cinema thinking, yeah, this is the best Bond film. It's a sobering rewatch, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Me. It's one of those ones you're like, okay, it really was. I was really caught up in that moment. Casino Royale just really holds up.
Yeah, absolutely.
We won't talk about Quantum of Solace or...
No, Quantum. Yeah, it was such a shame as well, because obviously this was like, we're going to sequelize this film. It's going to have a full-on follow-up, and then the follow-up was just kind of naff. But it wasn't how there was strikes during that time, which kind of ruined the production and the screenplay and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a shame. It had such a great running start, and then because of everything going on outside of the production, it was kind of halted in its tracks, which is a shame. But I still think Daniel Craig is the best James Bond.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's all coming back to me now. I love that scene. Is it when he gets poisoned at the poker match, and his heart's about to like basically go into cardiac arrest?
Yeah,
and he's going to the car, and the way Craig plays it in that scene, this sweaty mess, like this guy who really is just trying to keep his composure, and afterwards he gets, it's like a Mission Impossible moment where he gets down to the last second and just defibrillates himself in the car, and then has to compose himself and just shakes his tie off and walks back into the bar and continues the poker match. That is the best version I've seen of like kind of doing the Bond cool thing without it looking swarmy and like a little bit creepy sometimes. I love that scene. Yeah, it's such a good film. Good
Agreed. Well, that's 4 and 4. My 4, your 3, which means I now go into my number 3.
You've got to talk for a little bit longer, Alex. Yeah.
Okay. This, because the rules are so loose, this is the reboot/remake of a TV pilot that was turned into a TV film, LA Takedown, which was then remade into Heat.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
it doesn't cross my mind, first of all, but of course that makes sense.
Yep. So Michael Mann obviously trying to make a TV show out of this screenplay that he had written that was based on it was based on somebody's life, I believe. So there's a little bit of truth to some of the crime stuff in this. Mr. Heat. So it's a crime film with an ensemble cast led by Al Pacino and Robert De Niro, who are on two sides of the law. You have your head honcho criminal man, played by Robert De Niro, and your detective, Al Pacino, and very much was advertised as these two are coming together for the first time. We had seen them previously in The Godfather Part 2, but in very different times.
Sure.
So they never got to meet, but here they were, meeting for the first time. And it is a fantastic, fantastic film. It is like the crime film. 1995. Though there's something about it, like it was so ahead of its time. It feels like the aesthetics of maybe like an early 2000s crime film.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it also did inspire a lot of stuff post its release, including obviously a lot longer after. But Christopher Nolan cites Heat as kind of one of the massive kind of main influences for The Dark Knight as well. Brilliant script, brilliant action, brilliant cast. The gunfights in this film are so loud and crazy. There are some great twists, and there are some great lines as well. And we all know, Pacino knows how to go dial it up to 11, and he dials it up to 11 a lot in this film.
Is it something like who are you, a fucking oil or something like that?
Yeah. She's got a great ass.
And Val Kilmer's in this also, and he's like, shredding up the streets with his machine gun.
Yeah, Val Kilmer's in this. It is honestly, John Voight is in it. Who else? Ashley Judd.
Ashley Judd's there. Yeah, it's a big cast.
It's a big cast.
Hank Azaria, Danny Trejo.
I actually had, I would say maybe like 5 years ago was the first time I ever watched this film. Mm-hmm. So it's not been long in my mind, this one. And I don't know why I didn't watch it prior to that. I do remember they had it on Mubi, and I watched it on Mubi, and I was
it's a long beast as well.
It is a long. It feels like a novel, and I believe Michael Mann's now written a sequel, which is a novel to this film, which he wants to get made. He's desperate to make it into a film, and I think it does the Godfather thing of like being a little bit of a sequel and being a little bit of a prequel at the same time. And I believe he wants to bring Adam Driver into it somehow.
Of course.
I guess he just worked with him on Ferrari.
Absolutely.
But this is his magnum opus. It is a very novelistic crime film that looks at the two different sides, how it affects their lives, and, for better or worse, and how they're not that far apart. They've just got the law behind them kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I find it hard to disagree with anything you said. I won't be able to add too much. It's been a real long time since I've seen Heat. I've seen it multiple times, but I was early teens. Again, this was sort of a film I would have watched at home a couple of times and quite enjoyed. I remember just the visuals of it. I'm a little bit hazy on the story, but I remember being completely like, oh my goodness, this is like one of the best like adult films I've ever seen as a kid. So I need to rewatch it, man. Its legacy speaks for itself.
I'd definitely be up for seeing it in the cinema as well. I've obviously never seen it in the cinema, but I imagine it is
next year. That could be a possibility.
Is it? Yeah, it would be
30th.
30 years.
Yeah,
I'll do that with you. You want to do that?
Let's pencil it in.
If we were big enough,
World will do that.
Yeah, if we were a big enough podcast by then, we could set up the screening.
Exactly, and Michael Mann would be begging us on his knees.
Yeah, exactly. It is proper good. It is proper good, and I think everybody should watch it because I think it really, really holds up. Like I said, it doesn't feel like a 1995 film.
So, Alex, last week we tried my first stab at a segment. Let's just say there were some teething issues behind the scenes. Listening back, I thought to myself, perhaps I was just being a bit too easy on Alex. He seemed to get those really easily.
I like the fact that I was able to get them easily.
Well, I don't want to insult your intelligence. You're a very smart guy and you've seen a lot of movies. So we've been talking about reboots and remakes for particularly big franchises, I think it's worth saying so far, or big movies. So I thought, why not a big franchise themed quiz? So this week, Alex, I'm going to give you a few names of some big movie franchises. All you need to do is tell me how many films are in this franchise and then name all of them for me.
Okay.
So you get like 1 point if you get the number of entries in the series right, and then you get another point if you can name them. So does that make sense?
Sounds good.
Okay, Alex, are you ready? I've got question number 1.
Okay.
I'm going to start you off really nice and easy here, Alex. Don't worry. I'm not going to be as generous as last week. How many films are there in the Harry Potter franchise? And yes, this does include those new prequel films.
Okay. All right. So we got Philosopher's Stone.
Okay, you're going to name them first of all.
Chamber of Secrets, Prisoner Azkaban.
Yeah.
Goblet of Fire. Half-Blood Prince.
Oh,
no, Order of Phoenix, Half-Blood Prince.
Oh, you almost tripped up there.
Yeah. Deathly Hallows 1 and 2, because they split it into 2.
Okay.
And then we have the Fantastic Beasts films, of which there are surprisingly 3.
It feels weird, doesn't it? It feels like there should be 1.
Yeah, despite the fact they're all shit.
The power of member berries.
Yeah. Not that J.K. Rowling is much of a draw anymore. So I think we are 11 films in the franchise.
What are the Fantastic Beasts films called?
All right, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is just that's it, just for number 1, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh God, I can't remember number 2. Good God, I know that the third one's like something Dumbledore.
Yeah. Okay.
The secret, Dumbledore's Secret, or something like that.
Secrets of Dumbledore. I'll give you that one.
All right.
But you only get the point if you get the second film.
Wait, you never said about naming them all.
Yes, I did. I said you get a point for telling you how many there are, and you get a point for naming them.
Okay. What was the evil guy called? Johnny Depp. He changed actor 3 times. It was Colin Farrell, then it was Johnny Depp, and then it was Mads Mikkelsen.
Well, the first change was planned. The second time wasn't.
Yeah, they still should have. If they'd done it right, they should have just. I
think Colin Farrell would have been the best of all 3 if they just kept it that way, wouldn't it?
He was great.
He looked cool. He looked cool.
And all right. Something Grindelwald.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're halfway there. You got the
I
name
remember
right.
his name. Crimes of Grindelwald?
Yes.
Okay.
You got all 11.
I got him. Woo!
That was the easy one.
Oh, God.
This one's a little trickier. Question number 2. We're in the realm of horror here, which is a genre rife for not just creating sequels, obviously, but also remakes. See the connection?
Is it going to be Saw 1, Saw 2, Saw 3?
Don't spoil this quiz. Parallel timelines, extended lore, and so on and so on. You got all of that here in these sort of remakes, Alex. How many films are there in the Halloween franchise? This is setting up to fail because even I couldn't answer this, and I was so taken back whenever I did the research for this answer.
Okay, so I'm trying to think now because I'm not I don't super well know the Halloween franchise. I've only seen
it's a hard franchise because it's like it's been remade a couple of times, and then timelines also like meld into the other older. It's weird. It's a weird one.
We definitely have Halloween 1 and 2, the originals, right?
Yeah, they're just called that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Halloween 3 turns into it tries to go down. What do you call it? An anthology type thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of maps its own.
I'm gonna say they then brought it back with 4.
We are getting into Halloween 3 starts the colon subtitle phase here.
Yeah, but it doesn't really work out for it, does it?
No.
We then have 2 Rob Zombie films.
Okay,
maybe?
Yeah, that was the first time I watched Halloween, actually.
Okay, we have obviously the 3 new ones, of which I've only seen 2. I haven't actually seen the final one yet. I heard a lot of mixed things.
It is something.
I need to see it just for that reason. And then I'm just gonna add one more on that. I'm gonna say 9. I'm gonna say there's 9.
Okay, not too bad. You were close-ish. There's 13 Halloween films.
Oh wow. Okay. So I messed up somewhere along there.
So we got Halloween. We got Halloween 2, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers.
Yeah.
Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. It feels like there should be brackets with Abbott and Costello behind that.
Yeah.
Halloween H2O.
Oh yes.
Halloween Resurrection. And then you get the Rob Zombie ones, Halloween 2007, Halloween 2, and then it's Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills, and Halloween Ends.
Yeah.
Will it ever? Will it ever?
Will it ever?
Alex, sorry, I did throw you to the wolves there.
That's all right.
We're going to keep it in the realm of horror here, Alex. And then, as you liked to spoil my complete segment, I am going to go into the Saw franchise.
Okay, sorry about that. Sorry.
You son of a bitch. So I went through the partial ordeal of watching them last year in preparation.
Which is great. It's great, right?
It was ultimately a fun experience.
Yeah, it's great. And the latest Saw is fantastic.
I would say Saw 10 I've given you a part of the answer already.
I knew it was Saw 10. I didn't want to say, but I didn't want you to shit yourself.
I knew that you knew that it was Saw 10. Saw 10 is I would say the newest one is the best.
Yeah. Easy.
Can you tell me, Alex, how many Saw movies there are?
10. Oh, wait.
See,
no. I think it's a trick question. because of Spiral, right?
And there's another one that's not got the usual title in it.
There's another. Oh,
so obviously, right. Can you number them? Give me the number ones. Get that out of the way.
All right, Saw 1 to 10.
No, not getting away with that. I'm sorry.
What do you mean? There's Saw 1, there's Saw 2, there's Saw 3.
Yeah.
Saw 4, which is 3D, right?
Maybe not. Maybe.
Oh, okay. Saw 5 was 3D.
Maybe not.
Saw 6 was 3D.
Well, you've got them. You got them all right so far, but 3D's nowhere here yet.
Oh, really? Okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, I don't know then. Well, I know there was Jigsaw. Yeah. I know there was Spiral.
Mm-hmm. From the Book of Saw.
From the Book of Saw. I'm trying something there. Okay, so how many?
So you're missing one movie. You're missing one.
But one that isn't called Saw.
No, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to give it to you.
Oh, you mean like it didn't have a number? It was like Saw Resurrections, and
we're in that ballpark.
Saw Revelations.
No.
The Curse of Saw.
I'm going to give you like 5 seconds.
Let's Saw 3D.
Yes! It's Saw 3D, aka, or Saw 7, but it's Saw 3D, yeah.
Oh, 7 was 3D. Okay, gotcha.
It wasn't called 7, it was just called 3D, yeah.
Okay, and then was Saw 8 Jigsaw?
Yeah.
I don't remember there being a Saw 9, so that must have been Spiral.
Yep. And, as you already mentioned at the beginning, Saw 10.
Saw 10, so there are 10 films.
Well done.
There you go. All right.
It was kind of a trick question.
I thought it was going to be a trick, but there we go. Yeah. No, yeah. I remember that I had so much promise for Spiral. I really wish it was good.
Because it was trying to be a moody David Fincher film, and it ended up being the worst of them all.
Yeah, truly.
Alex, the last one, I think, will take a bit of work, but I reckon you'll get there. This is a franchise that wobbles a lot from time to time, has some really good standout entries, one in particular that has a lot of fans. That franchise is X-Men. Alex, final round. Can you tell me how many X-Men movies there are and name them for me?
Okay. I was thinking about X-Men a lot recently. Maybe because we're getting the Wolverine film and the cartoon's been on there, but people have been like showing clips from Days of Future Past online a lot because I think there was such promise with that franchise back then. Anyway, Saw 1, 2, 3. No, what I saw X-Men 1, 2, 3. Okay. All right.
You jumped the gun.
X-Men X2. X-Men The Last Stand. X-Men Wolverine Origins.
I'll give you that one, but the order's kind of wrong.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. You got the two words just in the wrong order.
Oh, X-Men Origins.
Men X.
Men X. Origins Wolverine.
Yeah, X-Men Origins Wolverine, Alex.
Yeah. Which I remember on my first watch, I thought was fantastic.
Starring will.i.am.
It was not fantastic on a rewatch. Okay. Then we've got...
great video game.
Do we have The Wolverine after that? Is that the next one in the series?
I'll give you it because it is on the list, but it's not the next one.
All right, so the next one would be oh god, what was the rebooted X-Men called? The Matthew Vaughn
the best of the reboots.
I think it is actually. Yeah, I think it is. I think it's fantastic. X-Men. Oh god, Chris, what was it called? Can you help me out?
It's
Give
like
me a clue?
you could, this is like a way of having your seat assigned to you on an airplane. This is like if you're very rich, you would go here.
Oh, yeah. All right. X-Men First Class. All right. Thank you for that. I've actually been to where they filmed the X-Mansion. I've been to the X-Mansion.
Moving on.
All right, sorry. Just like to name drop every now and then.
I'm just kidding. Okay, so X-Men First Class. Then
I did the whole put two fingers to my head and pretended to move thing.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that photograph.
But they must be like, oh, not another one of these bloody tourists.
It's the 50th one today.
It's a really nice manor house. It's not just the X-Men.
It's not just that.
Anyway, sorry, where were we on? We're on those four plus the Wolverine, then X-Men First Class, X-Men Days of Future Past, X-Men Apocalypse.
Ouch.
I quite liked Apocalypse when I saw it. I haven't re-seen it since.
Because you love Oscar Isaac.
Yeah, and I do like the X-Men films. Then would it have been Old Man Logan?
Mm-hmm.
Then it would have been... Are we counting the Deadpool films?
I haven't. I've stuck with mainline mutant.
Okay, cool. So we got one more, which would be X-Men, the Dark Phoenix.
There's one more. It's a film that's kind of borderline doesn't exist.
Days of Future Past, X-Men Apocalypse, X-Men Dark Phoenix.
Mm-hmm. I counted this in the franchise, but it kind of was a film that was delayed for years and came out, and then eventually came out and nobody was interested. Did something different.
New Mutants.
Yeah.
Which I haven't actually seen.
I have not either. Again, nobody cared by the time he came out.
Yeah. Anya Taylor-Joy's in it though.
Yeah, there's a few big faces in it.
Maisie Williams.
Mm-hmm. Alex, how many films is that?
11?
11, correct. So, Alex, you got, out of a total of a possible 8 points, you got 6.
Okay, I'll take it.
Good. That's like Halloween was a little bit of like setting you up to fail. I understand that.
That was a B. That was a B, right? It was like a B plus.
Yeah. I in your circumstance, I would give you an A minus.
Oh, that's very kind of you.
Alex, well done.
Thank you.
Till next week.
Till next week. All right, let's get back into our list of the top 5 reboots and remakes. We're now in our top 2. Chris, do you want to go for your second pick?
Yeah, okay. So this is this is the second reboot I'm going to talk about here. And this is something that could be arguable, but I really appreciated this whole sort of relaunching of this franchise in film form. And that is Star Trek. When J.J. Abrams brought it back in 2009. So, so you could argue that there are some wobbly parts of all of these new films. The thing that really sticks with me is I'm a really big fan of the original Star Trek series. I got into quite a few years ago, and since I've watched, been catching up with the later TV shows like TNG and all the other ones. But what I loved about these newer films is that there's sort of real appreciation and wanting to go back to what made the original William Shatner series, very potent, and that bring a little bit of that 60s sort of sexiness back to the sort of sci-fi genre a little bit of goofiness, kind of getting to know these characters and spend time on the ship and really invest on everybody aboard the Starship Enterprise. And as the films have gone on, the most recent one, which was, I believe the screenplay was written by Simon Pegg, who is a big Trekkie. I've loved just sort of seeing it lean more into that 60s aesthetic and really kind of turning the series into like a TV show extended into a feature length. So it's a lot of fun to me. I don't know if you've watched these films, Alex, these newer ones.
I have actually. I would probably say, apart from the odd episode, the J.J. Abrams reboot was kind of like my first time truly watching Star Trek, which maybe is blasphemous, but it kind of hit all the right sensibilities for me because he was essentially making Star Trek a little bit more Star Wars, and I thought it was a fantastic sci-fi film. I even really loved Wrath of Khan, and the only film I didn't love was the third one.
So the second one's called Into Darkness.
Which is
a
remaking
of
Wrath of Khan.
Yeah,
I forgot. Yeah, sorry. That's what I like Into Darkness, which I know is a terrible opinion. Apparently,
yeah. Well, I was the
thought
same
it
as
was
you.
great.
I was the same as you. I loved Into Darkness when it came out, but at that time, I had never seen the original films, and since then, I've caught up with all the original films, and I've really, really, really dug deep into those. And Wrath of Khan is just the original. It's just a superior film. I understand why people were a little bit mad at it when it came out.
You were rewatching all of Star Trek, right? Like that's been something you've been doing.
It's an ongoing.
You're not finished yet. Yeah.
No, it's a behemoth of a project. Really, I've done original. I've done TNG. It'll be Deep Space Nine next. But yes, like TNG for me was such a big undertaking. I'm so lucky that I fell in love with the show so much because it's ridiculous. It's like 1,000 hours of television or something like that. You really got to like lean into this. But I love it. It's so good. Star Trek has that real magical thing of you could watch an episode and be like, oh my goodness, this is like Emmy Award winning, some of the best writing I've seen in television ever. It's incredible. I was really provoked by that episode. And then you watch the next episode and it's about like, I don't know, like the first crewmate trying to hook up a free space alien women. And it's like the most ridiculous, badly written schlock ever. So it's so fun in that way. It's like it's the best version of an up and down roller coaster you can have, or it's a win-win situation no matter what. Even the crap episodes, you're gonna have fun with. So I really think the new movies, yes, you're so right. They bring it up to the Star Wars sort of standard of action, which is something that the genre was a little bit more schlocky with before. But yeah, it's a lot of fun nonetheless, and I think there's a real place for it. And yeah, I would love them to come back to it. I think they've been having a fourth film in the works for a while, but I think it's one of those franchises people, unless you're a big nerd like me, aren't really turning up to the cinema to go see them. So yeah.
I feel like it definitely is something in development, right? Weren't they going to bring back Chris Hemsworth, or did that happen?
So Chris Hemsworth was in the first one, and he dies at the beginning.
And they were going to bring him back, weren't they? They were going to do like a big father-son time travel storyline.
Maybe Guardians 2 came out, and they were like, "Oh crap, we can't do that now."
Maybe so. Just because I think like they didn't realize they had such a big star there. Tarantino was attached to the fourth.
I know. Could you? He was saying apparently it was going to be an 18-rated Star Trek movie. I mean, that would have been jarring, but I would have been so intrigued to see what that would have looked like.
Definitely, that would have been interesting. It'd be cool if they would just like, even if he wasn't directing it, because obviously he's taking this time trying to figure out what his 10th film's going to be. It would be good if maybe they just used his screenplay. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway,
it'd be a fun exercise. But
Chris Pine's underrated, I think, as an actor as well.
I was just about to say, when I think of the new Star Trek movies, I think of two words: Chris Pine.
Yeah,
I love him. I think he's of all the Chris's, he's stolen my heart. He's so good. And this kind of leans into Dungeons and Dragons that came out last year. He is really good in that sort of like kind of fumbly but charismatic, intelligent leader. He's in the middle of a ragtag group. He's really good cast in that role, which is what he was in Star Trek. He was this sort of guy. He's like a bit of a loser, a little bit of a dropout, but kind of had the instincts to like overcome everybody else around him. And he's so good in those films. I really enjoy him as an actor. I wish he just did more of that sort of stuff. I feel that is a real treat whenever we get to see it. So yeah, I love the Star Trek reboot. I think we've been teased with that. I like it a little bit more. Give me a little bit more. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Alex, number 2.
I'm trying to think. So I've got 2 options left. Could go either way. Both of them kind of connect to Star Trek in a weird way.
Oh, okay.
So I'm trying to think what the best one is. I think I'm going to pick this one, and it is probably worth saying. Like, I don't know if I completely rank these films. Like, like these are just 5 I like. I'm not sure if I'm putting them in some kind of order. I don't know. Maybe I am. Anyway, so I see your Star Trek, and I raise you Star Wars. Star Wars: The Force Awakens as a reboot. / kind of remake. I know there'll be a lot of people saying that it completely remade A New Hope. It doesn't completely, but it plays in a similar territory.
It's an exhausted topic.
Yeah, exactly. And what were we, like 15 years, maybe just under, since Revenge of the Sith had come out?
10 years. 2015, Force Awakens came out. 2005 was Revenge of the Sith. Yeah.
God, it felt like a longer wait.
It did, didn't
felt
it?
like a much longer wait. And also, there was also this idea of like, we're never going to see Star Wars again. So getting it.
Boy, were we wrong.
Boy, were we wrong. Now it's Star Wars every day. The Acolyte out today.
Yes, of course.
Well, I think it is on the time of this recording going live. Force Awakens, I was mad excited, as was everybody around the world. But
one of the best trailers ever.
One of the best trailers ever. You had this kind of weird thing of like the love for the prequels hadn't fully kind of reignited yet, so there was still a lot of people who were just like, finally this is going to right the wrongs of the prequels. You had people from the original trilogy era who were just like, it's Disney, they're just going to F it up even worse. And then you had just people who were just, I think most Star Wars fans are just happy to see Star Wars, right? I'm happy to see Star Wars. So that kind of midnight showing of
I went midnight as well, and it was palpable, the atmosphere in the cinema that night. Yeah.
Just dressed up as a Jedi, one Ewok. Of only a couple of people. You were an Ewok, weren't you?
Oh yeah.
No,
I was dressed as me, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, I think my partner Em would have liked to have been with your group, because I made her dress up.
Let's go.
I thought a lot of people were going to dress up, and not a lot of people dressed up.
Oh no!
It was a fully blown packed cinema. But I was happy to be there with my lightsaber and stuff. But it was Plymouth. Like, nobody, like, it didn't feel like it was busy, but it didn't feel like that exciting. I wish it was more exciting. Nobody clapped at the end, which I was quite surprised. I know UK is not a big clapping cinema place, but
I remember in I went to see it in Belfast City Centre, and they let out 10. The whole cinema, every screen was out for this midnight launch, and everyone was sold out. And there was applause, like a cheer, when the Star Wars logo came out at the beginning. And I remember hair was on the back of my neck standing up. It was great.
Man, I don't think I've ever been more excited. I had the same feeling, just full-blown euphoria. And
the reviews came out like a couple of days before, and they were glowing. And I was like, oh my god, here we go.
But this was kind of like one of those things. Like, Disney had to prove to people that A, they knew how to handle Star Wars, and B, they could make a good film, and C, they could make it look nice and kind of tease you for the future. And I think it did all of that. I think we can probably, if we were to take ourselves out of the excitement of the moment of watching The Force Awakens for the first time, you see some of the more of the remake criticisms of, like, it is following a very similar story to A New Hope, but kind of like turned on its head a little bit, picking and choosing from different storylines. And that's not really something Star Wars had done a lot of before. It hadn't completely remade itself. And if you do watch the films in order, like you go 4, 5, 6, 7, it is an odd watch to watch 7 completely doing almost what 4 did the first time around. So, like, there's an element of that where it's like, is it a good remake? I don't know. But I can't get away from just like how much I love that film. And every time I sit down and watch it, I'm put back in the moment of watching it for the first time. And it is a film which is all about clapping and going, wow. And that kind of gets boring now, but like, it didn't at the time. That was the film to do it completely right. It was fan service at its finest. And and everybody, I think, after that film were just like, I think Disney know how to do a Star Wars. Like, we want to see something a little different next time. And they did do something different next time, and it polarized fans. So, like, not everybody, Star Wars is a very a fraught
Alex, I'm holding your hand right now. We're going to jump off this cliff together, you and me, Thelma and Louise. I love The Last Jedi.
Of course, Last Jedi is one of the best Star Wars films. It completely gets Star Wars.
Holding your hand so tight, the crowd are running after us right now.
Oh my god. It is a film that understands Star Wars more than any of the sequels that came. afterwards. But there you go. And then Disney unfortunately like killed it with the Rise of Skywalker, I think, and that kind of momentum has kind of like been semi lost. And every now and then it kind of kickstarts a little bit with Andor in the
Andor was fantastic.
TV world and stuff like that. Like every now and then it does something where you're like, oh, this kind of reminds me of what Star Wars used to be.
I think the real like folly of that franchise, not to get too deep into that discussion, has really been the fandom, and it's been interesting as you know, we're talking 2015, a new sort of culture has emerged where fandom has sort of dictated art in a way. Where I think that trilogy had a strong beginning, but succumbed to the loud voice of the many that wasn't on board with its trajectory. And you know, you can't please everybody. You can't. And that showed in the final product, and still kind of shows now, unfortunately. But there doesn't take away from me really enjoying 7 and 8. And I agree with you. I love 7. I do feel like time's not super kind to that film. When you watch it, it feels like a storyboard come to life. You know, you're really, really aware of the machinations of this is this and that character's leading to this and blah, 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 blah. It doesn't feel as organic as, say, A New Hope does, but it's visually it's breathtaking. It harkens back to those originals. It was a really great way to get us back in there. Has some really great, obviously John Williams' score is he's adding some great new tracks. I love like Ray's theme and everything. I still play some of those tracks often. And it was enough to get me back on board with Star Wars again.
It had a lot riding on it. If anything, it was maybe like one of the most kind of anticipated reboots of all time. And I think, you know, that first leg, I think, kind of did it very successfully. Had a lot riding on it, and it came out the gate. I think it did well. So yeah, that's my number 2.
Nice pick, Alex. Right. Number 1.
Numero uno.
This feels like a bit of a de-escalation. We're talking big franchises here. I'm going back to something a little more humble, a little bit more similar to my number 5 pick. But this is a film I absolutely love. And unlike all the rest of the films we've talked about so far, where I'm like, oh, these are really good remakes, these are really good reboots, I can't say they're better than the original. This is the one I'm going to put my neck out there and say that it is better than the original film. And I had watched the original before watching this, so I this isn't a bias here at all. And that is True Grit 2010, the Coen brothers remake. Again, as we've already talked about, I grew up in a house that loved Western films. My dad's favorite film of all time, he used to always say, was True Grit, 1969, John Wayne. He loved that film so much. And I loved it too growing up. I thought Rooster Cogburn was such a cool character. He's a drunken, hard-nosed US Marshal who's a bit of a washout. And a young girl, Maddie Ross, who is without her parents, is her father has been killed by an outlaw, and the town did nothing about it. The sheriffs did nothing about it. This man is still on the loose with his gang. And young Maddie Ross, who is 11 years old, recruits has-been Rooster Cogburn, a legend of the West, or so he says, or so others say, to help her find the man who killed her father. And it becomes this really cool odyssey where a real dynamic couple, a young girl and an old legend of the West, kind of come together and kind of find. It sounds corny. It really sounds corny, but they find each other in an unexpected way, in an organic way, and it's a revenge story, kind of similar to Furiosa. Is revenge all that satisfying, and is it all it's cracked up to be? I love the original film. It's really cool. It does a really good job at making John Wayne actually seem kind of mean. There's a really good sequence where he runs down a group of 4 guys on horses by himself with 2 Winchester rifles akimbo, and it's really cool. It's one of a really legendary piece of 60s American cinema, but the remake just does something so different. The Coen brothers, I love the Coen brothers, Alex, when they're at their gentlest. I think this is why this film and Inside Llewyn Davis are probably my 2 favorite Coen brothers films. What they do to True Grit, what no other modern Western film has done for me, is actually capture the fairy tale nature of the Wild West, the story. Like, it opens up in this vignette of Maddie's father dead on the street with a voiceover of the older Maddie saying, evil got away and nobody went after it. And it opens up with a Bible proverb, very beautiful piano score goes over this film, and it just fleshes out these characters and makes them way more robust. It has a comment on the legend of the West, like these old guys that were alive. Like, have we embellished this in our American media or our Western media? Like, was it as cool? Were these guys are amazing as what we say? And it just kind of it's just like a story come to life, and it has some incredible performances from Jeff Bridges. Young Haley Steinfeld, with her first appearance, she Oscar nominated, and probably still her best performance to date. This film is just beautiful to look at, emotionally quite confident, and it really sneaks up on you. And I think it's one of the best Coen Brothers films, not just remakes. So I love this thing.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen it, but I do remember being quite taken by it at the time. And Haley Steinfeld was nominated for an Oscar. Did she win it?
Yeah. No, she didn't win it. She did not win it, but she was nominated. Yeah,
she was nominated. Yeah, I remember it was just a fantastic film all round. It's very difficult for me to say too much because it has been such a long time.
But, similar to the Heat thing earlier on.
Yeah. I do remember liking it quite a lot.
It is really cool, and it has the typical flavors of a Coen Brothers film too. It has the dark humor here and there, which they're really good at. That dark comic tone, but it just how they're able to kind of weave their more 15 R-rated side with a bit more of an accessible, this is like a 12A Western film for all people to kind of watch. And and it broadens the original kind of mythology of the first film too. We get to see Maddie as an older person, as a woman in her 30s and 40s at the end of the film, which we didn't get to see at the first. And she searches for Rooster afterwards, the man who helped her bring the man who killed her father to justice years later. And this is the end of the West. They're all gone now, and the man that that helped her when she was younger, one of the legends, is actually a sideshow at a circus now for old has-beens who used to be famous and used to be gun-toting. And it's a real sort of sobering look at those sort of legends. I love it.
Yeah, I agree. It was a good one. It was a good top pick there.
Alex, what's your number one?
So this is where I said my top two could probably go either way. I don't know if you said
Star Wars, the prequels.
I don't know if you said this to me on a podcast or whether it was in person. Mm-hmm. And you said to me about this film recently. You were like, "Isn't that rubbish?" I was like, "No, it's not rubbish."
What is it?
About 2012's Dread.
Okay. A film I maybe don't have fair dues on because I think I saw half of it. So maybe don't take that opinion too hard.
No, it's not rubbish. It's not rubbish. And I wanted to double check that for myself. I didn't fully rewatch the film just because I didn't have time in between our recordings, but I went and watched a bunch of clips on YouTube and I was like, yeah, this is great. I want to watch this again. Directed by Pete Travis, but it was actually written and produced by Alex Garland.
Heard of him.
It is in the same way it's kind of a remake of the old 80s film with Stallone, but really it's more of a readaptation of the comic books of Judge Dredd instead, mainly because I guess this time around they're actually kind of following the source material more closely. So yeah, it's this brilliant low-budget sci-fi action film where Judge Dredd has to go in to a tower block and stop the kind of criminal overlord, played by Lena Headey, Mama.
Oh yeah,
the name, who's kind of taken over the place and is selling this kind of drug that slows down time, which is obviously used for great effect in the film with its slow motion sequences. I actually remember seeing it in the cinema. I actually saw it in 3D. And because if you look at the poster on Wikipedia, it does say Dread 3D.
Yeah,
and I
remember that. Yeah,
those slow mo sequences being particularly good in 3D, and it looks great. Carl Urban, who also is in Star Trek, but probably more well known now for his The Boys playing
Butcher,
Billy the Butcher. who I wasn't sure if he was trying to do an Australian accent or a British accent. So
I didn't know until season 2 that he was
supposed to be English, right?
I know, awful. I mean, awful on me. Not he's good in it, but like, oh dear, I didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, he is great, but the accent is somewhat questionable. But it doesn't take me out of it. It doesn't take me out of it. I do. He is great in it. Yeah, it was what I say, 2012. A year prior, The Raid had come out, and I don't know if there was.
Oh, that was good.
I don't know if they were either inspired or because surely the turnaround between the two films would have been quite difficult. But it does feature a very Raid-like action sequence throughout the whole film as they go up and up the different blocks of the tower block to get to our head honcho. It's an R-rated, gritty, dirty, grimy sci-fi. With an actor who is not as self-conscious as Stallone was, and is happy to keep the helmet on throughout the whole thing, and really kind of get into that world. And it's short and snappy, and just I don't know, it's just a really fun action film set in this kind of this very 2012 sci-fi world. And there's telekinesis involved, all kinds of stuff. There's a young Donald Gleason in there. The whole thing just works. It's a really fun film, and I think it should be higher on people's lists. Some people haven't seen it at all, and I think it didn't really make a lot of money. It never kicked off a Judge Dredd franchise. But I'm kind of happy. I feel like if you put too much context in these films, like because the sequel would have gone bigger and probably more convoluted. And it just wouldn't have worked. I like this very stripped down. This guy comes in, he's judge, jury, and executioner all at the same time, goes into this, this housing block and shoots up the criminals. Great. I had a blast. I had a brilliant time. I've seen it a few times since. Always enjoyed the experience. But yeah, never really kind of started anything apart from now being known as like a relatively good cult film.
Consider me inspired, Alex. Circa 2012, perhaps I was. I didn't give it a fair shake. So I do love the way you're describing it. I do love the way it's an unapologetic film by the signs of it. It is what it is. If you're not up for it, well, fuck you. Yeah. So I really like the sound of it, and I'm a fan of those actors too. So I will definitely catch up with Dredd at some point and come back and say, oh, I said X, Y, and Z because I had no clue and I should shut up. Yeah,
so I didn't really mean to call you out on the podcast there.
That's okay. I think I said like as Robert, so out of like I thought I had an idea of what that film was, even though I hadn't seen it. I thought I just kind of that film had a reputation, but I didn't realize it was such a cult classic. So we'll revisit it.
You got to, man. You got to. Do you know, it might be a fun one for when you're over next.
Yeah, it's 90 minutes long. Yeah, go for it. We like this.
Good fun action film. Yeah, it might be a good one to watch all together.
I'm pretty happy with our, now top 9 list because we got Casino Royale joint. I really like our top 10 list, Alex. I think it's pretty good. Some interesting films in there. A little different flavor, insight into Alex and me as well. If you're new to the podcast, what we kind of like.
And our very loose interpretations of the words reboot and remake.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything controversial in our picks today. I think we did pretty well.
No. The most controversial take was saying that we both love The Last Jedi.
Yes, I told you, I'm holding your hand, brother. I'm holding your hand. we were across the table.
Brilliant.
Seance.
Right, so just briefly, next week's episode, we are going back to doing a couple of reviews. Now, like all things, we try our best to stick to what we say. Doesn't always work out. However, the 2 films we'll be reviewing for the next episode of The Film Angle are both video on demand releases. So we're going to try and catch up with Monkey Man. That is now left the cinema, and we didn't get around to seeing it, unfortunately. Other films came out, and
it was a busy time.
It was a busy time, but that's great. Great that there were good films coming out that, so many good films that we couldn't get around to seeing it, I guess. So, we're going to catch up on that one, give our review of Monkey Man. And then we're going to watch the new film, a new Netflix film, which is getting a limited cinema release, but we'll see if it's hitting the cinemas near us or not, which is Hitman.
Yeah, a new Richard Linklater film, which is him doing something, stretching a muscle he hasn't previously stretched. We are both massive fans of him on the podcast, so this is one of the most anticipated movies of the summer for me. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. It looks a lot of fun.
Yeah, apparently there was a bit of a bidding war for this film, for the rights for this film, with Netflix outbidding the studios for its release. Do you think they may be kicking themselves now that Glenn Powell is like the next hot thing in the kind of mainstream world?
Yeah, it's true, and I guess Linklater kind of had a pre-existing relationship with Netflix. He did Apollo 10.5 of them 2 years
which
back.
they just dropped on quietly despite
that was
being a fantastic film.
Criminal,
yeah.
Great film. So yeah, well, I think Netflix needs it. So yeah, I'll be really interested to see Hitman. I'm really excited to see that. It looks very funny. I like Glenn Powell, and lots of costumes, lots of mayhem. And Linklater, just see how Linklater manages this sort of material will be interesting. But I have nothing but faith because I pretty much like everything the guys made.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it. And if we get round to our BFI films, then the next film will be 8.5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Alex, I don't think this will be hard to do at all. Excellent. I'm promising you now. I'm going to put it onto audio form. This is cemented. We'll be talking 8.5 next week.
Let's do it. I have seen it before, but I'm somewhat looking forward to the rewatch.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too.
I'm going to get myself in the right headspace, which is probably my problem sometimes with these longer films. So but now, I got a purpose. I
find, do you watch these during the day or do you watch these at night? These BFI films?
Mainly during the night. I have watched some during the day, but majority during the night.
Yeah, I don't know about you. I've dabbled with both, and I do find nighttime I'm better at. I find during the day I'm a little bit more, I should be doing something. I'm terrible at that.
Fair enough. Yeah, sometimes nighttime's better because like everything around me is dark.
Yeah, it's dark. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah,
it's more so. Right.
Let's go. Let's end this.
That has been the episode for this week. If you've enjoyed it, make sure to leave us a 5-star rating or review. We really do appreciate it.
If you'd like to keep up to date with us, make sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at The Film Angle.
We also have a Film Angle playlist. If you want to listen to what we listen to, you can find that in the show notes.
Be sure to catch us next week for more cinematic discussions.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
See ya.